Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome back to another episode. I am Jackie B. I'm your host and Shamanic Soul Guide. And I also have Mary on with us today. Mary goes by she's a human being, and I can't wait for her to get into that. She's a lovely energy, and we can talk for days. And the time, like we were just talking about that before, we were just opening and connecting energies, and we're like, and about 45 minutes have gone by, and we haven't hit record. Um, our conversations are always so beautiful and so intuitive and flowing and so much depth. And so I can't wait to share her with you guys and have these conversations flow through us. But with that started, what do you mean by a human being, and a little bit about your story? Let's start with that, Mary.
Well, it's funny that we do start with that because that whole label there came literally by entertaining my anger and frustration of like one workshop after another. What's your niche? What do you want to call yourself? And I'm like, I'm just a human being like everyone else. Like, why do I have to compartmentize this?
I love it. I was the same way, Mary. Like literally people would ask me the same thing. And that's why I call myself a shamanic soul guide. Because that's not something
Mhm.
you hear. Because I was like, I'm done being put in the damn box. Like, can't I just be Jackie? Same
Yeah,
thought
and,
plus.
and that overflows into so many other things because then they start poking you with respect. Okay, so what's your specialty? Is it this trauma? Is it that trauma? Is it children? Is it women? Is it men? And it's like life, life. Doesn't it happen for everybody? Like I don't get
Oh,
this. So in my own complete transparency, those kind of questions at those workshops were like, I think that we're all guilty for that. We go running thinking that we don't measure up to something, looking to fill our bucket kind of thing. And I don't know, I always felt, yes, inspired and then very deflated at the same time in the aftermath of all of that, because I always felt like with being the little disciplined, good little girl, always doing what you're supposed to do and everything like that. It's like, but I'm doing it all and it's still not working. What the hell, right?
We were talking about that before. It's like it's missing part of us, like because we're trying to check everybody else's boxes and everyone else's expectations, and this is how you succeed until we go, what the flip? Like I lost the purpose of why I wanted to be here in the first place, and now I got to come back to my core. Like I
But
want to share
even
with you, like what I see for you is, yeah, you are like a human being is perfect because you are so real, so genuine, and you like are literally like the tour guide of the life spectrum. Like no matter what life is throwing at you, I can open and I will be a channel for the divine to come through and to share whatever is there, whatever nuggets, whatever seeds want to be planted. Like my job is not to necessarily grow the oak tree. It's to start planting it and you get to nurture it. That's what I see about you, and you do it so beautifully.
yeah, I've come to a point in my life, I guess, where I sort of like enjoy, if I can entertain the old language of I enjoy failing. It's where I've like grown the most. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, do I feel overwhelmed about taking this next step? Yeah. Okay, give it to me anyway. Let me do it wrong and then I'll figure it out. And
That's how you
then
learn.
it's like for me, I developed this little motto after I was invited to talk somewhere, and I was like, for every reason that showed up as to why I couldn't do something was my silver lining. It was like, yeah, watch me, I'm going to do it type of thing, right? So it's interesting the way that this all kind of unfolds, and I love the way that you open this interview because it's one thing to think that you're creating something when you entertain the thoughts or the workshops, the programming, the how one is expected to show up. And I just came to learn that it was in such contrast, because even to have the discussion of, oh, getting certified with life coaching, and when you pop those questions that I was like so frustrated with, it was like, honestly, like if I can speak from my heart, my dream is to have a zero database of clientele, because I don't want people with issues. My heart, and this is what's taken me years to sort of collect all the puzzle pieces to try and have it come together. But that's just it. It wasn't until I just literally went, all right, God, you know what? I have no control of this. This vessel's yours. I'm just simply a chamber. Guys in the collective, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just surrendering it all. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it. I'm going to like collect the little gold nuggets that kind of resonate the most with me. And nothing's become like, I always say it this way best. I am everything and I am nothing all at the same time. I have everything and I have nothing all at the same time. Those are such powerful awarenesses for me that literally I feel flipped my switch.
Absolutely. We are the spectrum. We are all in yet a point on the spectrum at the same time. And that's a beautiful way like of how you literally broke that concept down to understand oneness. Oneness means that yes, I'm an expression. I'm a piece of the whole, but I'm the whole at the same time. Like and how
Mhm.
beautiful and how powerful that is. Like
But
absolutely.
even this week, I was playing around because, of course, with all the energies and all the forewarnings and the shadow work and that, oh my God, again, even in the healing, the language within the healing can get fucking like, shut up, man. Sorry. Like,
No, you're
be
fine.
quiet, man. Like, enough already. If I see another one of these like labels or instructions or whatever, but I was like, I've never understood why we're like looking to lay down to rest our dark shadows. Like, logically, I'm going to be the little girl. Logically, the brighter I shine, the darker my shadow on my wall, right? Like, if you
And as a
play with your
kid, you
shadow
play
like
with
Peter
it.
Pan,
Yeah.
like don't you want it to be there, like rather than severing, like make peace with your shadow. It's a beautiful ingredient of who we are.
It is a part of you that you're speaking my language because that's what I always say. Like nothing will like be like nails on a chalkboard than somebody saying, cut your ego out. The shadow is bad. Like, let's get rid of it. Like, no, that's not the whole point. Like I always say, your shadow is actually your best girlfriend. Like she is there, she is your truth teller. She will put it in your face and say, hey, woman, let's do something with this. She won't
Hmm.
necessarily force you, but she will bring it to the forefront. She will not let you walk around with the lipstick hanging on your face. Like, no, she's like, let's clean this up, honey. Like, that's your shadow. It wants the best for you.
Yeah, and see, it's also learning how we can talk nicer to ourselves too, because like I mean, and I didn't get how to do that, even though many people can say, oh, love yourself, do this, use these adjectives. Okay, whatever. There's none other than taught me that lesson than the divine interventions that I've had. When I've literally felt like Jesus has sat right
Mhm.
beside me. And like now my experience when I'm talking is like my right ear whistles like at a high frequency, like that. It makes me aware he's there, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, did you have to be that loud though?
Like, whoa, too close to the mic.
I'm deaf. Please turn it down a little. But if you've ever had these beautiful divine conversations and encounters, especially for me in my most darkest moments for me,
Mhm.
there's a certain I've experienced the conversations from so many different angles where there's a certain direct bluntness
Mhm.
that doesn't cut like what our traumas are, but it's direct and you can still feel the underlying love that it
That's
comes
what I was just
from.
going to say, the unconditional love. But if you remember, love can be fierce.
Yes.
Like, and that's
Like
the mom
it
tone
comes
of like,
from,
enough, baby. Like, this is what you need.
yeah, it comes from a matter of fact
Mhm.
kind of directive. And there is a gentleness that you can feel in the energy that will uplift you in that very crucial moment in time of when you're just sort of, if it could be life in slow motion, you're like throwing that leg over that hurdle that you never had faith of getting over. And all of a sudden, you've got these beautiful, tender moments where those conversations with God have carried you forward, right? And comedy, the humor, like the little sarcasm that comes around it as well. Like that, those have been my lessons. And this is where I get contrasted even with respect to chasing the curriculum. Like I've got certifications we can make our own toilet paper out of, all right? But to have the experience that I just conveyed and shared from a personal space, you don't find those things in books, even if someone's written about their own experience. So this isn't like, hey, you come see me or do it this way or do it. No, it's an invitation that everybody defibrillates their soul and wakes up and smells the cappuccino to go out and be their own
Take the tools and actually
experience.
apply them. Like, that's what I always say. I'm here to help you become your own healer. My, just like you were saying before, like we are very similar with that. Like, my job is not for you to rely on me. There's enough codependence in the world. Like, that's the one thing. Like, nothing makes me more excited is when you say, Jackie, thank you for helping walk with me. I now have the confidence and I'm moving forward. And doesn't mean I won't have stumble in the moments, and there might be times where you want to like, hey, let's do a tune up quick, like this is what and bounce ideas. But that is the point. Is that not? Is to let the birdies fly out of the nest eventually? Like, I
Or
don't want to
organically
create
dance with
situations.
one another.
Yeah, I don't want to create situations where you feel like I hit this point and I have to. Jackie has to save me. No, I'm done with a saver complex. Like, that's something that I brought up. Like, you know how much pressure it is to think that you have that much power to save the whole world? Like, I
Well,
was drowning from birth. Like,
as I was sharing, divine is straight up because, like I said, I'm uncomfortable about being in front of a camera on the lives and stuff like that. I'm getting over it, right? Because this year it's been like a big, first it was nudges, now it's a big shove to do this evil eye clearing with the blessings, right? However, it's getting bigger and more flamboyant and that much more with grace. Now I'm being asked to share of whatever ancestral teachings that I've had given to me by my grandparents or my mother or my father or my downloads or anything. But again, all of these things that open up, they haven't come without literally latching on and locking it down with divinity.
initiations is what I call it. It's called in shamanism. Like, you ask for something, you're gonna get an initiation, so you can experience it, you can embody it, and that is how you can guide someone else through it.
Right.
Otherwise, like, this is what I always say too, because I have a laundry list of certifications and all the different things that I've done, but nothing is more powerful than the experiences and that I've been in the muck and I know how it feels. And I'm willing to get in the muck again with you. I will not pull you out of it. That is not my job. My job is to model and show you how to help yourself out, because next time you fall in the muck, I want you to go, I've done this. I can do it. I can get back out again. That is the point. And so it's embodying those initiations and moving them forward. That's the most important part.
Well, because it's a lot of very, very much like our growth spurts in life, like how we go through little girl to puberty and then whatever, right? For me, so even most recent, before I did the new moon ceremony, I that night for the night before, I couldn't sleep. Before a 4:30 a.m., I was like really hot. I opened the window, the birds were chirping, one of my most favorite things. So I was just losing myself in that. And then all of a sudden, I, and these, from my experience, are a certain message. So for me, I had the divine intervention where I had the feminine energies of our Holy Mother Mary come to my room. And we spent some time together, but I noticed my humanity try to talk myself out of it. Like, no, no, this isn't. No, it's the little candle that's drizzling out. It needs a battery, but science can't explain the breathing movement. Science can explain how the beautiful face of Divine Mother just sort of like came three-dimensional here, and there was no actual physical words of dialogue, but there was a huge, dense conversation that was, again, just for me. And I gotta put that out there because I've been asked to put it out there. Those of us that are doing light work, remember, please, that not everything is meant to be shared with everyone because everyone does need to have their own experience. And these are intimate, sacred moments for our own personal journey. We have to learn how to instill so that it becomes secondhand nature, honoring those boundaries of our sacral space. So please, as much as we're eager for everybody to get on the same ship type of thing, less force, more grace, and hold what's true to you for only you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest message I got from that conversation.
In the sacredness of it. And it's different than hiding. This is a conversation I have all the time. Like, there is sacredness that is meant to be sacred. When I hold circle, it's sacred circle. That's not meant to go everywhere else. This is our intimate space together. That doesn't mean we're
Right.
hiding anything. That doesn't mean that we're keeping secrets. It's this is our deep space where we can show up raw, all of us. And that's not always for the whole world to see. We are
There's
not
a
here
difference
to be a poster
between,
child for everything. Like, that's not that's not what
yeah,
it
but
is.
yeah, and there's a difference between, let's say, secret versus private and confidential. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Or even intimate. Like there's different layers of it, and all of them serve a certain purpose.
And eventually maybe you'll build that where, okay, I'm ready to let this part of myself out and express this hurt that I've been holding for a long time. And I feel the sacred space for it to go there. And you can go there. And maybe then once you get it and you're working through and you're healing that space, and you come back into wholeness, eventually maybe you can share that story in a more public setting. But you
Absolutely,
have to have
because
a space to be
it
held to get there.
there's a time and a place for everything, because I think that we're all going to be called to share and reveal it all, because after all, we're born butt naked, right? And and there's some certain religions that will actually bury their deceased butt naked too, and that's why they never cut their hair, because they use it to gracefully drape over their private areas, right? Because as you come into this world, this is the way that they want you to leave, right? So I feel that we're called to that. We're called to be transparent. However, there's been this insertion of like misunderstandings through the whole like teaching us right from wrong and the discipline and the please and the thank you. There's been fractures of interpretations, right? It's time for us not to overly analyze ourselves constantly from like, like a constant critiquing. And if you're going to do it with the intent of like feedback for you to grow. How are you contributing to yourself,
Yes.
right? And
Intention.
if I'm not talking to myself nice, then I'm not really contributing really nice, am I?
What is your expected outcome too as sharing? If I'm sharing, am I looking for self-approval? Am I like what, or am I learning? I'm sharing for hopes that it plants seeds and helps inspire others. Like, what is the intention under it? And something else came up. I can't remember as you were saying. I can remember. I'm choosing to remember.
Mhm.
See me? The
I
power of
see us. We're always practicing exactly what we preach.
yeah, and I think
Do,
that's what it
do
is.
people think that we don't stub our own toes?
I hope not. That's what I said. I'm like, I want you to humble me and see that like I am no better than anyone else. I'm on this journey and this is my journey and my journey may be different than other people's and that's beautiful. Like I'm not here to make my journey your journey. My journey is
Yeah,
like our paths are going to cross and if we can travel together for a while, that's beautiful. If it's meant just for this moment, that's okay too.
exactly.
Listening and I know that I'm not everybody's favorite flavor of tea. I say this over and over again. Like, I may not be your favorite flavor of tea, and that's okay because I'm somebody's damn best flavor. And I don't want to waste my energy on somebody that's not receiving because it's not serving them or me in that process. And that is
Mhm.
huge coming from the old school version of the good girl, the people pleaser, and having to be all right to going, it's all right, and I am enough just as me, just as I am, mistakes and all, and knowing that, hey, today I am different than I was yesterday and the day
Well,
before.
the,
Every day I'm
the
evolving.
the other thing that I think that sometimes we drop the ball at is just the acceptance of what we have come to learn that we've chosen, right? Like, so with it being, just spinning off a Mother's Day weekend, right? And for me, like, as much as I wanted to include this into the new moon kind of additional conversations and stuff like that, I thought, no, it actually needs a really different, nice space. And I'm seeing this as a beautiful opportunity to bring it in because we were talking about, how we get here and all the different labels we wear and everything like that. And yeah, human being is the one that I gave myself, but a lot of people label me Mama Mary type of thing. Now, speaking on the Mama Mary, and you look at the Mother's Day weekend, like, I mean, for me, Mother's Day weekend also is a huge representation. Like, again, calendar
Mhm.
annoys me because I don't like how humanity has fallen into the whole stereotyping that it's because it's XYZ day. No, it is every day's Mother's Day for me. I celebrate my mom every day. I do things on the always with love. You know what I mean?
I actually
Because,
just said that the other day. I'm a mom all day, every day, not just today.
but here, look at all of our beautiful sayings too, with respect to it takes a village to raise a child type of thing. And I was in reflection mode, and I was like, wow, for me personally. It's like I feel honored that I was chosen as a woman to be a chamber to bring in, oh my God, the ultimate thing of being like Mother Gaia to be able to plant a seed here and allow me the power to nurture it to bring the next generation in. And then it got me reflective that it does also represent the year that my grandmother passed away in 95, the weekend that she passed away. But for me, that story there goes even deeper because dad had gone to help them with her later part of her life type of thing. And I had told mom that that woman chose dad in life and she's going to take him in death as well. I already had that premonition, and it wasn't long after dad came back with respect to caring for her that then we got word that she had taken a nosedive. My dad, when he came back from caring with her, he literally looked like it was one of those scenes when Moses comes down from the mountain kind of thing. He had transformed completely. And I said to mom, she took his vitality so that he can exit with her, right? My grandmother passed away Mother's Day weekend. Look at the dire want of like knowing I want to be mother. You know what I mean? And it was just that I want to be mother of a son. She had daughters, right? She wanted a boy. So then she adopts my dad, and then dad passes on literally 3 months, one day to her passing. So there's that whole wow, there's so many alignments that speaks into, and we don't take these life incidences into consideration when we're in our heads analytically ripping ourselves apart. But when you sit back and look at your life in the way that it has been experienced, the misunderstandings that I've had along the way, the beautiful moments of coming to learn how to be grateful of how all persons, places, or things contribute to me. Because I initially took the time this weekend to sit both my adult kids across from me and highlight to them a thank you of what it is that they have taught me in my lifetime of being mom to them.
Yes.
Right? So does anybody have a how to do life script? No. And it's and I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not like trying to shoot anyone that's like an entrepreneur and looking to make a living to pay their livelihood in the foot. I'm not doing that. And I'm a reminder that we need to remember to stay clear to the purpose, the true, pure at heart purpose. And so long as it is in contribution of the greatest good, then it will become blessed and in multiple folds. It's when we go sidetracked that things start to get corrupt.
You stop being true to you and you lose sight of the why you were called to do it in the first place. Like why the calling was on your heart and that pace, and it's like shifting. I remember what I was gonna say. I wanted to know your opinion on the difference between somebody expressing and somebody projecting and how you communicate that. Because sometimes we get when somebody's expressing and they're saying like I'm hurt, you did this to me, blah 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 blah. Like you hear that a lot. And it's like
Mhm.
I'm just expressing. Don't stop me from expressing in that space. Like what's your difference? How do you view it as like what is true expression versus the energy of projecting?
I gotta first ask, how is the person listening?
Mhm.
Because are you listening to contribute or are you listening to rebuttal? Right? Because of course, in the experience, nobody, I told you, I'm not perfect, right? So in the experience, we can all have our humanity, like body check us and show up differently and script it that way and saying, you made me feel that way. And I'm just expressing the way that you made me feel. I had that moment with mom just the other day. Mom, you're not listening to me. All I'm saying is that you could have had a better approach with that. Right. And I think in that moment, the conversation was, hey, the electricity bill is a little high. If I had it, I wouldn't even ask you to mind yourself, but don't turn on the oven as often as you do. And I'm like scratching my head and I'm like, really? Like, first of all, I'm not cooking a lot anyway. Most of my food is mostly raw at this point. And I'm thinking, because for me, it triggered me. It took me back to a childhood thing, like I was always feeling blamed for everything, right? So it was like, oh, so the TV that you fall asleep in front of that doesn't contribute to anything. I says, now you're making me feel again like I'm in the way or that I consume too much. Do you understand how that makes? She goes, but nobody said that. And I'm like, and you're not listening. I'm telling you, this is how this approach has made me feel. I'm not even accusing you that that's what you're doing.
This
But
kind of
again,
sharing.
how are we listening? Are we listening with our ears or are we listening with our soul? And that's the way that I mentor people when people come to me for one-on-ones. It's like, you want to live life. It's great if you're born and you have everything operable and it's working fine, your five senses of sight, smell, touch, walking and tasting and everything. That's awesome. How blessed are you? but you don't really freaking live until you start living from your senses, from your soul. And then if you were living from the soul, that wouldn't even be a question, right? Because I would never show up in an ill way with my language if I've said it in my head and it screeches with my ears and my heart. Why would I project that out?
Mhm. Well, and how I look at it too is also it's a responsibility thing. I am in management of my emotions. No one can force me to feel anything. That is my choice. Doesn't mean situations don't pull things up for me. So that's what I always say is like, sometimes I got to ask you the tough questions when we go through things. Like with clients, I'm like, okay, so and so made me feel this. Okay, did they make you feel that? Or is your interpretation of the situation that happens making you feel that way because you're choosing to put that narrative. So a lot of the times what I say, okay, let's stop and take radical responsibility, coming back to the facts and going, okay, this is what happened and this is the emotion that is coming up in me. The difference then you are making me feel. No, this is the I'm noticing, I'm stepping back in the observer. I am noticing I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling disrespected. I am feeling like you know what I mean? Not I am angry. I am whatever. I am feeling, I am experiencing because it's a temporary thing that goes through. And that's where you can be radically like open and going, okay, so this is what's coming up. But what's your story? Because this is, I'm feeling this, and this is the story I'm telling myself.
Right, but and you're not able to actually grow from even expressing that until pretty much the person like meets you like in that space. In again, do we really want to manage feelings just to sort of back up a little bit type of thing? No, if anything, we want to entertain organically having the freedom to be able to just feel
Yes.
and
Well, that's what you said.
allow
Like
me
people,
and
why I said
allow
manage
me.
is people say control, control. Like,
No,
like no, it's not a control. That's not a healthy relationship
no,
either.
even the word allow, like to speak the English language shoots me between the eyes because even the words allowing, no one's going to allow us anything. It's just to feel invincible, to have the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom of being able that if it's true that you, person A, unconditionally love me, then I should be able to feel safe here and reveal it all
Yep.
and have you contribute to me rather than chisel away at me that much more, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm not saying that
And
you do that.
if it's something that I am even in dialogue of like, Mom, this is what I'm telling you I am feeling based on how you communicated, I still have to take that little loop bag home here to me and say, okay, but why did you get that uptight with Mom? You know what I mean?
That is
Because
what I'm getting
now
at.
you're a bit, that's another huge download. He's like, everyone's got to put their big girl and boy pants on. I'm not responsible to set off alarms. Hey, it's a new moon. Come and see me. Like, no. Divinely alignment means that if you're meant to see it, you're going to be there. I'm not putting on a circus act for anybody. I am just sharing. No different than if I go and I have a really freaking amazing experience seeing a good movie or a good meal at a nice restaurant. I'm going to be like, if you want a really good steak, you want to go here. If you want a really good vegan meal, you want to go here. If you want a really good produce, because experience. If I buy a lot of my groceries at certain staple grocery stores and I don't go to my nice specialty, double the markup, as in private grocery stores, there's a difference in the quality of food. So for me, it always means pulling the reins back because, again, as a single mom, do you think that I didn't have like those triggers that I used to shop primed by what does the price tag say? And I used to go into that energy already shitting myself thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford everything that I need for me and the kids this month. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I've gone from that to like, I don't really give a shit what it's going to cost if this is good for me. And now that I can vibrate so flawlessly that my body, every time I put something in my mouth, it either makes it feel like it's a sponge absorbing it all in, that it wants it, or it sits sickly from the minute that it hits my tongue, because my tongue is the first thing that gets irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So those are the way that I've come to learn that my body communicates to me. So where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
The train's coming back.
The train is coming back. It was an express train because there was so many things that have become so revealed, and there's such little like aha moments, like, I mean, if we reflect, if I go and I entertain even the thought of like my analogy around the fascia and what it looked like to me and how it's like, hey, yeah, it looks like semen type of thing when it's magnified, and it looks like mucus, and CSI needs to put the blue light on the bed sheets to find, evidence of semen. And oh, well, God was really brilliant because he must have known that man-made was going to put, mercury in our fillings, and has saved us from the gases being activated every time the thermal affects our filling, that it doesn't affect our brain, because divine is freaking brilliant. And guess what? The only instruction we ever had was to love one another, because he wanted to see if we were smart enough to find him in each other as well, even though he's in within us all. But we failed at that because we took our gifts and we made it a competition. We got greedy. We forgot to say thank you. And that was my aha moment, that has been like, you've been taught this all your life, but then there's another palette of knowing with every activation that comes in. And that's why I said every time my life experience has been that every time I'm going to make like a quantum leap of an ascension, the feminine divine Mother Mary comes to me, because I can count my encounters with her during my life the way that I can count my encounters with Mary Magdalene. But the energy of divine, divine, divine has never left me. That's always been consistent. I've had souls and angels and signs through my day-to-day things that are constantly showing up. But once you sharpen your pencil and knowing how to read energy, and you become fluent at being a GP at energetic languages, there's no stopping us. We can't go fast enough.
Mm-hmm. I love
It's
that.
a beautiful time to be alive, I'm telling you. And this is why I love that you invited me, because again, it's all a matter of like contributing to one another. You opened with, this is all about you, but no, this is about you. I said yes to you because this is your show. I want people to see your light and my experience and the way that I've gotten to grow through my encounters with you.
Oh, I love you, sister. I love you. And everything that we talked about today, and everything we always talk about, and how we build each other. Like, I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
But to give also, like, and I don't want to sound like as if I'm like preachy or anything, but to give without like expecting anything back in return. And this also showed up with mom during the Easter season, because my friend had come over. She had given her some homemade fermented like hot peppers, because my mother, when gardening season comes, that's it. Everything is in abundance. So she's like, hey, you never followed up with so-and-so if she liked the hot peppers I gave her. And then she was also critiquing the in frequency of my son's attendance type of thing, and making some sarcastic, not nice words around that I had to come in defense with. And then I said to her, Mom, stop. Like, I mean, the woman has just had her mother, that's like her senior, like you, and debilitated, move in on the couch because she's not well. Her sister was diagnosed with cancer. Her brother just dropped dead with a massive heart attack. And you're looking for feedback on your hot pepper? Do you see how? And then you tell me to take a chill pill, but I don't understand that. Yes, that fuels me. And I don't like the way that it fuels me. So that's on me to
Mhm.
take but how many times and how many ways can I deliver this message that if you're going to give, fine, continue to entertain your big heart because that's what you want to do, but give not expecting anything in return. And don't measure people with how many times you see them or how many times you hear from them or whether they've said please and thank you.
How many
It
times
all
did they think of
gets,
you? And you never even spoke. They ever spoke. We don't know that. There's so many other things that people don't realize that you could be on somebody's mind all the time and they just don't have a chance to reach out or they're afraid to reach out or say anything too. Like,
but it's that whole thing of ready, set, play. Like, I mean, if people are not ready to step into what it is that we are being invited to, as into what is next on your horizon. Again, I'm not inviting everybody on my island. As a matter of fact, go find your own. You know what I mean? And I want to be there for all of us that we do it together. Like, I mean, my ultimate
collaboration.
dream my ultimate dream is to like sit there and go like, I have these beautiful daydreams of like a bright sunny day. I could hear the quiet morning waking up, the house waking up, the dirt road tires that are turning down the drive or something, and my nice hot cup of coffee in that morning and checking in on my garden to see what needs to be catered to. And knowing that those that I'm living with and in contribution to, that even though we all have our own momentum of life, we all automatically look that we all have what we need
Mhm.
and what's next. You know what I mean? To have that kind of like, oof, landing of safe, home, cozy, there's
Health,
nothing to worry about kind of
true
environment.
community. Because
Oh,
we have each other's back. It's literally like where you used to be able to go to the neighbor and say, "Hey, can I have a cup of sugar?" Like you hear that, like, but you don't see that much. Like, do you see in New York City somebody running across the street asking? Like, I mean,
I
maybe,
I
but
literally grew up like we had, and I say this all the time. Like, I mean, back in I was born in 65, so in the 70s, like I mean, all the kids in the neighborhood ran up and down the street. Nobody was worried about there was no neighborhood watch sign to watch out for each other. They just naturally, the neighborhood all looked out for each other's kids. And when the whole street, it was supper time, they knew that they could find their kids at the end of the street where the corner park is. And it's like, so long as the parents could get a hold of one kid to spread out the word, it's supper,
yeah.
then the whole park would get evacuated. But like, those are the blissful moments that I want to bring back. I have this beautiful little child moment memory of one of my neighbors. I used to play with this little boy by the name of Michael. And his mom and I used to end up catching the TTC in the morning because I used to have to commute in. And then dad would come and pick our family car was a 10-speed bike that I had to bumpity bump on the little bar on the way home when dad picked me up. Okay. But in the morning, this woman had witnessed me one morning where someone had gotten the morning paper and left whatever loose change that would come back, either the dime or the nickel. And in my times, I could go to the corner store with a dime. I could get like 10 shoelace licorices and like pack of chips for 5 cents or whatever the heck it was. Like I was rich with this nickel and dime. So, of course, always being a oompa loompa little kid, like loving her sweets and candies and stuff like that, I was in my bliss. Does this woman not make a point of then repeating this joyous moment for the next 2 days after, where she beat me to the news paper stand ahead of time just so that she can give me those blissful moments, right? And it's like, I want those. I cannot, and I'm so clear that I cannot, and it doesn't, not to be rude or ignorant in any way, shape, or form. I have a compassionate heart. I am very well aware of the trenches that's going on in the world, and there's much that I cannot do anything about other than hold space and just make sure that where this pebble lands, that this ripple creates the proper ripple that it needs to create. But charity starts at home. So I need to take care of this first, this temple right here. And then a better me will be a better we, as far as I'm concerned. I've said that to my kids all the time.
I love that.
Right?
A better me makes a better we. I love
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Kind of brought this conversation kind of is now come full circle, because if we think about it, we were talking about Mother's Day and how it takes a village. And I love my mother. My mother was amazing, and she's no longer here. But I also honor all of the surrogate mothers that stepped in, my friends' moms that literally, like you were saying, that were in that motherly role, even they didn't have to. They chose to, and they made such an impact. And like my prayer is they hear this and like they can take that too and know how much their little acts of kindness and acceptance and things like made such an impact and imprint on my
Well,
heart.
thank you for saying that, because for me yesterday, and again, as we said earlier, like the calendar dictating to me when I must honor this and must honor that, it's annoying to me because that's not the way that the ball rolls. And where I was getting at, for me, I was actually, my Mother's Day, most of it, I was alone because my daughter was working. My brother was chaperoning my mother for where she wanted to be taken, type of thing. And my son, I hadn't heard from yet, but it wasn't like, again, I was holding him hostage to anything. I was just taking care of me, doing my zenning things that I needed to do because I knew that the house would be full later with festivities, type of thing. And in that zenning moment, again, because I entertain it, if I get annoyed, if I'm scrolling through the Instagram and seeing all the shallow end kind of posts, is what I call them, that for vanity's sake type of thing, right? Like,
Check the box.
okay, we have a calendar telling us it's Mother's Day. Now you want to do. But for me, the point is that I became very present to, like, what about the fathers that have stepped up with deaths of their wives? What about the big sisters that had to mature quickly because mom disappeared or ended up with some kind of abuse system, addiction or some kind? What about the aunties that get summoned in when relationships get fractured? Like, there are so many. And this is why I'm saying, for me, again, part of my healing has been, if you want to sever anything, is to sever the whole entitlement this English language seems to uh, interpret to people, that they must go chasing it like it's a freaking badge of honor on their chest. Get over your egos, people. Like, I mean, get over yourself. It's time to just show up for what the truth is. Muster the courage to speak that truth to yourself, because there are many people, in the same way that I would rebuttal mom that, oh, because my kid's father didn't have a father, that just equated naturally that he couldn't possibly be a good. No, shut the hell up. And there has been impeccable people that have grown up without that particular leg of support and have been both legs and added two more onto it to show you what an example of good seeding and foundation and nurturing looks like. But you have to start to invite yourself to tongues of truth to yourself. a lot of servings of humble pies, man.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of conversations that really drop you to your knees. They're not prideful moments, and I'm proud of them.
Mm-hmm. That's where the deepest growth and transformation can come from.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be radically raw and with it all.
Yeah. Wow, this has been quite the freaking conversation.
It always is, Mary. It's always is with us. With that, like, what is any last takeaways that want to come through before we wrap it up today?
Honestly, this is the time that we're really being called to literally stand together and to be in support of one another, because together we'll stand and alone we'll fall apart. And I used to use this as like an old tactic that I had when I was just the chair of the council at the school where my kids went. And that's what I would say. I would take a pencil in front of the parents, and like, this is if I do it alone, and I would snap the pencil intentionally because it's easy to break. But go ahead, try and put that same force. You're not going to
And
break
a
it
bunch
when we stand together, but we have to like show up, show up, speak
together.
up, use the voice,
Yeah, like,
love,
correct me if
love, love.
I'm wrong what you're saying, but for me, standing together doesn't mean that we have to be carbon copies of each other. We can agree
No,
to disagree in things, but we still can love each other through all of it. We can still
yes.
be a united front in that, and at the end, the core of it is love and growth and expansion for everybody.
But the whole standing together can also look like the fact that, hey, if I can't do it, let me keep my ear to the ground and see that if I come across somebody that can help you, I will make the connection. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's like,
Help each other out.
again, as a single mom, how many angels have I been sent that sometimes have filled my fridge? And maybe I haven't been able to return that gratitude to that particular person.
But you feel
And if they are in a very healthy spot, they will not hold me hostage to not returning that favor to them. But I may have been able to pass it forward to someone else that's more needy of where I'm able to contribute. And that's not to grade me. It's just that that's what we mean by when we say it all gets taken care of
sometimes
in
it's
the
not even
wash.
a
It
physical
doesn't
thing.
have to have a price tag and a score of I did this and you did that, just so long as it gets freaking done. So
And maybe
love
like I
one
know
another.
some people they receive that and they're like, I can't even receive this because I have nothing to give. Because that's the old narrative. And it's not about that as being like, thank you and humble. And they're not expecting anything from me. And how can I put more love in the world that doesn't have to necessarily cost a price tag? How can I just show compassion or show love or smile and say thank you or like have a beautiful day? That person that's all like grumpy and whatever, like instead of like feeding into that energy, you can just shift over and give them a little extra space. Or that's all it takes is those little acts of kindness can go
The
so.
next time that somebody sits there and wants to dilute their thoughts with whether or not they have anything to consider contributing, where would we be if the little plastic wrap around our shoelace had that thought process? You know how much I appreciate that thing to thread through my shoes? Like, I would be there forever otherwise, or I'd have to look at a whole different way. And that's the worst case scenario. If you don't have the resources, what is the worst? It's an opportunity to go out and actually create something. How bad can it get, guys?
It's a
Go
beautiful,
out
it's
and
actually creative
play,
and
have
fun and
fun.
yeah, play with it. Come back to that inner child piece and that's where I think life is all about is we're so quick to tell our kids like how to be an adult, right? That we think that that's the job of a parent of like I'm going to teach you how to be adult. Oh, were we wrong? Like like in my view, like no, I'm not here to force you into a mold. I'm helping you create your own mold and expression and things like that because now we look at it and we're adults and we're like we're trying to get back to being kids. We're trying to be create that freedom and that fun and play and how to experience life again. That full
Mhm.
circle. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love this. I love
Thank
this
you.
conversation. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your wisdom with us today.
I love it. Every time we get together is such a huge, I always feel so energetic. Now I'm going to go into creation mode here. Thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.